and to love and to value. So he didn't say anything at all about when you got the call to go in the Navy. And I thought, I don't remember anything about this part, the hard part that it was when we were separated from the Vietnam War. And it was the first hard thing that we've gone through. And one of the things that I appreciate about that, though, is I think I grew up, and I know you grew up. In my mind, you grew up because I'd always called you Jimmy before, but I've never called you Jimmy since then. You're Jim Hardy, and I treasure that. So one of the things that you have been is like Michelle and Ian expressed is you've been fun. You've been a fun person to be with as a dad, and even though your dad never was able to tell you that he loved you, you've been able to tell your children that. And you've really worked hard at that. And even though your mom and dad, you never saw an expression. You have valued me and told me every day that you love me. You've learned to do that, but I really appreciate that about you. So I feel like a valued person and valued as a woman that we have grown together in that. And one of the funny things that I remember is we had family nights for a while, and when the kids were young, and one of the things you did, you and the kids took every pillow and every blanket and every piece of furniture around and made a tunnel all through the living room and dining room and all through the bedrooms. And I can't remember what I was supposed to teach, but we and then the other one I specifically remember was, I think Ian was 4 years old, and you did Goliath. The story was David and Goliath, and Ian had some paper balls, and you came up with this big, heavy coat that you got from someplace, and you had a bowl on your head. You were the Goliath, and he was scared to death. He threw those paper balls at you, and you did this wonderful fall, slow fall, and finally crashed to the ground.
I don't know what she's talking about.
They remember. And so you've included us in your jobs, like they said, the funeral home business, and that was great. And the roofing business, he taught the kids his skills. He had learned how to roof. And I never had the courage to get up on the roof, but I remember climbing up the ladder and bringing them supper one time. He had to finish this job, and both the kids are on the roof. They're 10 at the most, and helping him do the roof. But they learned life skills. And so Ian is in construction today. I think he got that start back there, not being afraid to start. So I just value being with you. It's been a great life, and fun and serious and cherishing me. And though we had some low times about 3.5 years ago, we realized that there were some weaknesses in the character, and it was so wonderful that we both got help for that. So it's never too late for us to keep on going, and I really appreciate that about you. So the last 3.5 and 4 years have been the hardest, best years of our life. So I just treasure you and thank you. And I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
50 years. 50 years. I can remember when we'd been married 4 or 5 years, and I thought, 50 years. That would really be cool. Being together for 50 years. I used to listen to Paul Harvey, and he would announce the longest married people of the day, and 50 years was a minimum. 50 years. And I over that span of 50 years as a pastor, I officiated probably well over 150 weddings. And I did premarital counseling for in that premarital counseling, I said all kinds of wonderful things about marriage. You know, it always started with asking, why did God give us marriage in the first place? And the answer always had to boil down to teach us how to love. And over the 50 years, I'm thinking, man, because God puts us together sometimes with people who are not always lovable. And for a long time, I thought, no, I'm not a lovable guy. Until I started looking in the mirror and I realized that there were a lot of times that I wasn't lovable. But you were. And learning to love when you don't understand what that is and you don't know how to do it meant that we had to work through some tough times. First 47 years of our marriage were silent years. I grew up not really even knowing how to communicate on a personal level with someone. But you hung in there. And you said, you let me get away with it. And there may be a certain amount of truth to that, but still, we spent a lot of time not talking. And again, 3.5, 4 years ago, we finally came to the realization that this shouldn't be that way. And so we began to work through our past, both of our past family influences and the circumstances of our life. And the last 3.5 years have been amazingly incredible. Yeah, it wasn't always, I'm making it sound like it was bad. No, it wasn't. We had great times together. We had trips to Japan for a couple of years, trip to China for a month, we did Central America a couple, 3 times, we did a trip with the kids. We had great times. We had fun times. We had 2 great kids. If I'd have known how great they were going to be, we'd have had several more kids. But ultimately, what I discovered, and as we stand here today, was that there is truth to what I told those people back then. Love grows. And I love you more today than I did 50 years ago. So, 50 years. 50 So because of that, I want to say this again. I want to make sure that I promise to you that through the richer for poorer and sickness and health and good times and bad, I will keep myself to you and you only as long as we both live, or as long as the next 50 years. Until Jesus comes back and takes us all into heaven, or whatever comes first.
I'm sorry.
Thanks to the parents, Ron, coming here. And I think it's appropriate that you guys face the people here today as we get ready to close, because these are the people that love you. Family, friends, neighbors, relatives, friends from the past. Jim and Marcia, you've renewed your vows today. The love and commitment you have to each other is so obvious. And it's time to present you again, yet still, as Jim and Marcia Hardy. I was going to say at this point that you can kiss the bride, but you've already done that.
Thank you.
So, would you all stand in support of Jim and Marcia? We will close in prayer.